The first notes I want you out to have out is going to be the one that looks like this, graphing quadratic functions, okay? I need this one out first. Okay, we're going to extend what we've learned in chapter 4.2, and we're going to actually graph these functions, okay? We're going to graph the functions. So what you learned previously is that the standard form is going to be ax squared plus bx plus c. That is standard form. The vertex is hk. How do I find h? Negative b over 2a. That's what we learned Friday of last week, correct? Then we learned that k, which is our y-coordinate, is found by taking our h value and plugging it back into the original problem, yes? And that gives you your k. What you're learning new today is that your y-intercept is always the point 0c, always the point 0c. Your a value determines if you're going to have a maximum, meaning it's been reflected, or a minimum, meaning it is not reflected. Do we understand that, yes or no? Okay, there's a set of steps here. These sets of steps are here to be able to help you to determine how to find things on the graphing calculator more effectively. Okay, step number 1 says to find the vertex and the y-intercept. You are going to find the vertex the way I taught you last Friday. Those steps are not in here. Do you understand what I just said? After you have found the vertex and the y-intercept, you then are going to do the rest of these steps. So keep that out and set that paper aside. Get the second page of notes. The second page of notes is going to be the examples, and I did not put them on one sheet of paper because I wanted you to be able to go back and forth and be able to read. I didn't want to make you have to flip back and forth. You with me? So here we go. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to sketch the graph of y equals 3x squared minus 12x plus 7. First thing I want you to do is find the vertex and the y-intercept. So what is the y-intercept? The y-intercept is going to be the point 0c, which is the point 0.7. So that goes right there. Do we all understand that? Yay or nay? The next thing I need you to do is identify A, B, and C. What is A? 3. What is B? And C is 7. Correct? We've already used the C. That was our y-intercept. Now we're going to use A and B. I want you to find H. H is found by taking negative b over 2a, correct? You are simply going to plug and chug. This is what we did last Friday. So this is going to be a negative times a negative 12 over 2 times a 3. A double negative creates a positive. 12 divided by 2 times 3 is 6 to give you a 2 as your h value. Do we all understand where h came from? Now, how do I find k? We plug it back into the original function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, to find k, I'm going to do hf at 2, which is going to be 3 times 2 squared minus 12 times 2 plus 7. Yes? Now, everybody should have a graphing calculator somewhere around you, so pick it up, grab that, and we're going to do what we did on Friday. So I'm going to go to my home page. I'm going to go to my home page. And I want a new document. It's going to say, do you want to save the unsaved document? No, you do not. And I want a calculator page because I'm going to calculate. This is what we did on Friday. And we're going to type in exactly what you see in the blue up there. Yes? So we're going to type in 3 parentheses 2 squared minus 12 times 2 plus 7. And hit enter. And what is my k value? Negative 5. So I have found h and I have found k. So what is my vertex? 2, negative 5. Is this a minimum or a maximum value? HK, sir, HK. Do I have a minimum or a maximum value here? How do I determine this? Because I hear minimum, like it's a question. You are going to look at your A value. If your A value is positive, it's going to be a minimum. If your A value is negative, it's going to reflect and become a maximum. So what type of a value is this going to be? It is a minimum because A is positive. Do we all understand that? Yes? Now, I'm going to take this information and I'm going to take this vertex, which is 2, -5, and I'm going to place it in the middle of my XY table. Because I'm centering my graph around my vertex. So my middle point is going to be -2, 5. Nope, sorry. It's going to be 2, -5. And I'm going to put a star beside that. That star indicates that it is a vertex. We know it. Do we understand that? Now, I want you to visualize that this is your minimum point. Yes? If I graph the point 2, -5, that puts me right here. And we know that to be a minimum. That means my entire graph is above it. Would you agree? Now, the other thing we want is we want to go out equal distance to the left and to the right. So I'm going to go to the left 1 unit and to the right 1 unit. So that's going to give me to the right is 3, to the left is 1. I'm going to go out another unit. So that's going to give me a 4, and this is going to give me a 0. I'm going to go out another unit. That's going to give me a 5, and this is going to give me a -1. Do we see that? Yes or no? We are surrounding our vertex with points that we know are close to it. Yes, because those are going to be smaller y values to graph. If you choose any random x, you could get a humongous y value to graph, and it could be very difficult. Does that make sense? Okay, so now we're going to go back to our steps. And our steps said to then choose a graph page from your home screen. Now, we're not going to go to our home screen because we already have a document open. Do you agree with me? So I'm just going to go Control Doc. Control Doc allows me to open up a new page. And I want a graphs page. Then what do your steps say to do after you get that? The graph entry line will appear as f1 of x, and it did. And then it said to do what? Type in your given function here. So this is going to be 3x is down here by the alphabet key, squared minus 12x plus 7. And then hit enter. What's the next thing it tells you to do? Look at your function and determine if you have a max or a min. You said algebraically you were going to have a min. Do you have a minimum here? Yes, you do. So the next thing to do says to do what? Okay, so we're going to hit menu, analyze our graph, and we're going to choose minimum. What we're going to do is we're going to prove that our vertex is exactly 2, -5. So I'm going to use my mouse, which is this whole entire keypad. I'm going to go to the left of my minimum value and hit enter. I'm going to use my mouse and I'm going to go to the right of it and hit enter. What is my minimum value? Was I correct algebraically with my lovely little vertex? I was correct. Do we understand that? Now, step 10 says to do what? We are going to hit Control-T. Hitting Control-T allows us to find all of the x values plugged and chugged with their correct y value. Do we all understand that? What is 2, -5 understood to be? Our vertex, right? Do I want the point 1 and the point 3 for x? I do. What do you notice about those two y coordinates? They're the same, and they should be the same because it is symmetrical, correct? So at 1, I'm going to have -2. So I come over here and put 1 to be -2, which means 3 is at -2. Would you agree? Go back, and now I need to use 4. Well, what's it say 4 is? 7. What's its partner going to have? 7. Did we already know it was going to be 7? Yes, because we knew that we had the point 0, 7. Would you agree? Okay. I can go back and I can find the value 5. 5 is 22. Do I want to graph 522? No, it's a rather large number. However, I can go ahead and put it on there, but I'm probably not going to graph those. Does that make sense? Because they're going to be off my graph. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to graph my points. That's going to give me a 1, a -2, a 3, and a -2, a 0, a 7, and then a 4 and a 7. And I'm simply going to connect the dots as a U. Do we understand how I graph that, yes or no? Make sense? We good? Let's do it again, shall we? Okay, sketch the graph of y equals x squared plus 2x plus 3. Okay, so step 1. Find A, B, and C. What's A, B, and C? B is 2 and C is 3. What's the next easiest thing for me to find? The y-intercept. What's my y-intercept? 0, 3. Super easy, right? What's the next thing I should find? H. How do I find H? Negative B over 2A. So this is a negative times a 2 over 2 times a 1. Negative 2 over 2, which gives me a -1 as my H. Correct? So I found H. How do I find K? Plug it back in. So if I'm plugging that back in, I'm going to do K is going to be F at -1. So that is going to be a -1 in parentheses squared plus 2 times a -1 plus a 3. Correct? I'm going to come over here to my graphing calculator. And how do I add a new page? Control dot. So control dot, I want a calculator page to do a calculation, right? So I'm going to do parentheses -1 squared plus 2 times -1 plus 3. And hit enter. What is K? K is 2. So I come back over here and I simply say 2 is equal to K. Correct? So what does this tell me my vertex is? -1, +2. Is that a maximum or a minimum? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at my A value, and my A value is positive, so that has to be a minimum. So, okay, so I'm going to come over here to my next page, and where am I going to put this ordered pair -1, 2 at? In the middle of your chart. So I'm going to put -1, 2 right here, and I'm going to star that because that is my what? My vertex, and that is going to be at -1, +2, and we know that that is a minimum, so my entire graph is above that, correct? And now I'm going to go equal distance in both directions for my x. So I'm going to have -2 is here, 0 is here, 1 and 2, and this is going to be -3, -4 up top. Yes? Do we see how we did that? I already know what 0 is. 0 is going to be 3, so that's going to be graphed. So that tells me that its partner will be what? -2, +3 as well. Correct? Do we see that? Because it's going to be symmetrical. Do we all understand that? So I'm going to go over to my graphing calculator, and I'm going to control dot to add a new page. What type of page do I want? I want a graphs page. And I'm going to type in the function that I'm dealing with, which is going to be x squared plus 2x plus 3, and hit enter. We're going to look at the graph and say, was I supposed to have a minimum or a maximum? I'm supposed to have a minimum. Do I have a minimum? Yes. So I'm going to confirm that I'm correct by doing menu, analyze graph, and choose minimum because that's what I have. Go clear to the left and hit enter. Go clear to the right. Yep. Come on. Keep going. You can do it. And hit enter. What is my minimum? Is that what I wrote on my paper? So I know I'm correct. Do we all understand that? From there, what should I do? Step 10. Control T. Control T will give me an entire list. And what point do I want to locate on that list? Your vertex of -1, 2. Okay, so there's my XY table. So I'm going to utilize those points. So at -4, I'm going to have 11. At -3, I'm going to have 6. Well, does that help me to know what 1 and 2 are? 1 is going to be 6, and 2 is going to be 11. Can I confirm that with my graph? Sure. Go on down there. 1 is 6, and 2 is 11. Do we understand that? So I'm going to go back and I'm going to graph those. So I'm going to graph the points. -2, 3. I can't see this, so I'm going to erase that. -2, 3 puts me there. And then I'm going to be at 0, 3 puts me there. I'm going to be at 1, 6. So that's going to put me at -3, 6. And I'm off my graph for the 11, so am I going to graph that one? No, I'm not going to graph those. It's off my graph. And I'm simply going to connect the dots. Do we understand that, yes or no? Get out your remaining paper, which is your homework. Your remaining paper is your homework. I gave you a place to put your vertex, your y-intercept, your xy table, and your graph. Do you have enough room on there to do H and K calculations? Probably not, so please use a separate sheet of paper and make sure that you do it there. Yes? I'm watching you. Okay? Now, with that being said, problems 1 through 6 are exactly like the notes. Questions over any problems 1 through 6? Didn't I do one of them as a homework problem? I did number 5 last. Number 5 was your first example. You're welcome. Okay, next, turn it over on the back. Number 7, a small independent motion picture company determines the profit P for producing N DVD copies. Can you tell me what X and Y are immediately? Which one's Y? The profit is Y, and X is going to be what? The amount of copies. Now look in the equation. It says P equals -0.02 N squared, blah, blah, blah. N is what? And P is what? P represents Y, which is your profit, and N represents X, which is your number of DVDs, correct? Okay, letter A. How many DVDs should the company produce to maximize the profit? Guys, if we look at our homework, did I use X and Y? What did I use? H and K. So if I'm looking for X, that's actually the letter H. So that's -B/2A. And K is Y, which is the plug and chug of H. Yes? Do we understand what you need to find for letter A and B? Those are exactly the same for 8 and 9. And then you need to sketch the graph. Any questions over tonight's homework? You have the rest of the period to check last night's homework, which is on the board over here. And here is tonight's homework. The rest of the period is yours. No talking. Get busy.